Okay, good morning. So in the shir, we started saying yesterday with the first few lines that Ani L'Deidi V'Deidi is Reish Tevis El. And we brought down yesterday, I started getting to this, but I'll explain a little bit more, that the Seif Tevis, the last letters of Ani L'Deidi V'Deidi is 4 Yuds. What does the 4 Yuds represent? This is brought down by the Bach. That there are 40 days that Moshe Rabbeinu went up the third time to receive forgiveness on behalf of the Jewish people, and eventually the Luchos, part of the Torah, the fundamental part, translated in the world as the 10 Commandments. The Rebbe wouldn't say commandments, like Luchos. He would say it's a dibros, more like sayings. But just to maybe go over the brief history of it, the first time that Moshe Rabbeinu went up and got the Torah was on which day of the year? Anyone know? When was the Torah given? Vav Sivan. He went up Vav Sivan. He got the Torah, and he stayed up there for how many days? 40 days. So he came down. 40 days plus Vav Sivan would be, what's the next month? What comes after? Which day in Tammuz?
Shivas.
Good. He came down in Shivas of Tammuz, and what happened?
The Egel.
That was the Egel, right? So that means that they thought that the something that says the Gemara Shabbos made a coffin that Moshe Rabbeinu had passed away, and they started making the Egel, a golden calf, and that was a big tragedy, and the Luchos were broke, and it was a day throughout history which not good things would happen, and that's why it's even a fast day. Okay, that was the first round. So what does Moshe Rabbeinu do? He goes up the next day. It would be Yud Ches, and he goes up another 40 days, and he asks forgiveness for the people, for the Jewish people. He stays up for 40 days, and what happened during the second time? What did the Eibush say? What did the right? Originally, what happened in the beginning? I'm talking about the second time. The second time, Eibush said, "No, we're not forgiven." He says, and then Moshe Rabbeinu threatens, right? If not, if you're not going to do it, erase me from your book. I don't want to take any part of you. This is Moshe Rabbeinu, the Neshama Klal, the general soul of the Jewish people, and he's saying to them, if you're not going to include the Jewish people as part of me, if you want to not forgive them, if you want to obliterate them, I don't want to be part of your Torah. Take me out of your Torah. And Hashem hears this, right? You could say it's a little bit of a chutzpah, but in a good way. In other words, Moshe Rabbeinu was so one with the Jewish people, he's saying, without you, I don't want to be part of it. But the answer was no. So he comes down one, let's add again, Yud Ches to another 40 days is what? Now you're in which month? The end of Av. Right? Chof Ches Lerech. Depending on whether it was Hebrew or not, there's different days and everything. So then he goes up one more time the next day, right? Now this is Rosh Chodesh Elul. Right? Really could have been a Chof Tes going into Lamed. He goes up again, and this is the third time going up. The first time again was to learn the Torah. The second time was to ask forgiveness, and Hashem said no. And the third time he goes up, and this time, like you said before, Hashem gave the final forgiveness. And what was the last day of Rosh Chodesh Elul? 40 days later is which day of the year?
Yom Kippur.
It's Yom Kippur. And that's why it became a day of atonement through all history, that because Hashem forgave us that first time, that every single year we have the power to be forgiven again. So let me just maybe stop for a second. The Inyan, the manner of a Chag, right, a festival, in Yiddishkeit, in Judaism, is different from a festival in the secular world. What's the concept of a festival in a secular world? I would say it's a commemoration. Commemoration. Ever heard of like Columbus Day, Martin Luther King's Day? Oh, he was a great person. We don't have to make it exactly on the day where it happened. You can make it on a convenient day. You can make it on a Thursday or a Monday. Often we make holidays. Why? Because then people could take off work. If you make it on a Monday, you can have a 3-day weekend. If you make it on a Thursday, we could start on Thursday. Once we took off Thursday, then we can have Friday. What's so funny, Michael?
Memorial Day.
Memorial Day. But it's not on the same day that the actual, it's commemorating something. And you make it when it's convenient, right? What's a Yiddish Chag? What's a Yiddish Chag? So I want to say two things. Number one, a Yiddish Chag is, from the day when Hashem created the world, He determined that there should be an extra amount of revelation in a certain way on that day. This is from the Sheshes Yemei Bereishis, from the 6 days of creation. It says, Hashem says, this day, for example, on Pesach, I want there to be an extra amount of revelation on Passover. And that revelation is going to be something which gives the soul a power for Yetzias Mitzrayim, leaving boundaries, leaving restrictions. And because He destined that to be on Pesach, that's why the actual exodus of Mitzrayim, of Egypt, came out on that day, on Pesach. He decided. There was always an amount of revelation associated with that day, Tezvov Nisan, the 15th of Nisan, and that's why on that day it happened. And so to any other Chag, I could say Shavuos. That was a day destined from the beginning of creation, that Torah should come down from the higher worlds and become part of the lower worlds. Right? That was in Shavuos. And so to Rosh Hashanah, creation of the world. So too when it comes to Yom Kippur, that was a day from the beginning of the creation, that Hashem said, I want to evoke my Yud Gimel Midas Rachmim. We're going to learn about this later in the Maimon, what they are. I'm not sure we'll get to it today, but maybe tomorrow. The 13 attributes of mercy, which wipe the slate clean, as we say. Give you a new beginning. So they were destined from that day. And because they were destined from that day, that's why by Hashgacha Pratis, Moshe Rabbeinu went up the third time from Rosh Chodesh Elul, or Rosh Chodesh Elul. Again, there are a few opinions exactly when he went up, depending on how you calculate the month. But it was around that time. Every Rosh Chodesh 40 days later is going to land out to be Yom Kippur. And because it was destined to be a Chag, that's why the actual forgiveness happened on that day. And that's why, once it was revealed, every single year, that same amount of revelation which came down the first time, which first of all was there from the beginning of creation, and revealed itself on that day, comes back every single year.
Did Rebbe also say that it gets more, no? Every year gets more?
Absolutely. The Alter Rebbe writes in Tanya that not only does it come, that same revelation, in other words, we're talking about Yom Kippur, we're talking about Yigim Rachamim and Slicha, it actually comes back more, because every single year in Rosh Hashanah, a new light comes down, which is never in the world, like we said yesterday, the Fabrengen, and that has all the vitality of the whole next 12 or 13 months. So on Rosh Hashanah, you get Yom Kippur, and you get everything. You get Chanukah, you get Purim, everything you get on Rosh Hashanah, and you get more than you did last year, because everything last year already came down, and this year it's going to come down on a higher level. So that's the concept of a Chag, of a festival, that it's a Tosefes Gila, it's an extra revelation. Now, by learning Chassidus, which we're doing now, you can appreciate it. You could, when you know what's going on, you get excited. You're like, wow, I'm going to be assisted. I'm going to get Yom Kippur. I'm going to learn about Elul. And the point of learning about it is when you know the assistance, the boost, what your soul is getting, you can take advantage of it. In other words, one of the points of Chassidus, there's many points to it, as we said before. Avos Yisrael, Avos Hashem. You want to love God, love Jewish people, mitzvahs, love Torah. They're all connected to each other. But you want to have a vitality, a fervor, an excitement in your Judaism. So by learning about something and understanding it, that will give you inspiration. So let's go a little bit back more. We said before, I think we're about 3 or 4 lines into it. We said Yemina Techavkein, right? We said, Smorli Tachzareishi, Yemina Techavkein. We brought a verse in Shir Shirim, about the 3rd, 4th line down. Hashem, He puts His left hand under my head and His right hand embraces. Left represents Gvura, or mightiness, or fear. Shem Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippurim. From Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur. Hu b'china smoili. That's a level of smoili, which is left. B'china yira, the level of fear. Lefisha az huzman is galus. Malchus yizbarach. That's the time. There's the revelation of Hashem's kingdomship. When you think of a king is somebody who's head and shoulders above everybody. So people, when they go into a real king, you go into somebody very important. You prepare yourself, you dress up. Usually it's not accessible, right? This is the time of the year where a person can develop their Yiras Hashem, these 10 days from Rosh Hashanah to Yom Kippur, for the whole entire year. That's one of the concepts just on the subject, if I could say. Tishrei comes from the Lashon, right, of Chodesh HaShvi, which means Chodesh HaShvi. You know what the word Shvi means if you spell it a little with a sin instead of a Shvi? What does it mean? We say in benching. Kakasu ve'achalta ve'savata. What does the word savata mean? Satiated. So one of the translations of Chodesh HaShvi, it's the Chodesh of being satiated. Very good. In other words, you want to satiate your neshama with all different types of powers that you're going to need the whole entire year. So the first 10 days, Smoili Tachas Reishi, I want to satiate my neshama with the power of Yiras Hashem. How do I have Yiras Hashem, fearing God? By realizing there's a melech. Oh, that's a very important. So I dedicate these times, and that's why he says further, Lachen Koirin Lo Melech. We call him the king. What does it mean we call him the king? First of all, we change the nusach hatfilah. We change the davening. Instead of saying Hakel HaKadosh, right, the mighty, the benevolent God, we say HaMelech HaKadosh, the king, the holy king, and HaMelech HaMishpat. And if we look at the davening and the nusach of tefillah and the machzor, we're always saying king, king, king. Why? Because in order to do mitzvahs, right, in order to do it, you have to have a king. If you don't have a king, who are you doing the mitzvahs to? So there's one time of the year, starting with Rosh Hashanah, and culminating till Yom Kippur, where we focus especially, not that the whole year we don't recognize as a king. Every single day we have to recognize as a king. But there's one time of the year we have an extra boost. Why? Because there's an extra revelation of Malchus, right? Rosh Hashanah, you have this level of Malchus, which is revealed, right? I won't get into it too much now, but it says that Malchus, which is the lowest of the sphere, goes away the night of Rosh Hashanah, and it returns the next morning when we blow the shofar. So this is revelation of Hashem wanting to be king over us, and we evoking it from him repeats itself every single year. We call him the king. Ki malchuscha malchus kol olamim. His kingdomship fills the entire worlds. Pirish, what does it mean? The whole entire worlds. She'afila ba'elam nelamim. Even in the hidden worlds. Tipul alayim eimas melech habachdei. It falls upon them. Fear and awe of the king. In other words, there's 4 worlds. Atzilas, Bria, Tzir, and Siyah. The higher worlds are often very, very godliness, and they're worlds of malachim, of angels and neshamas. Even in those worlds, Hashem's malchus is full-blown. Its kingdomship is full-blown revelation. And from that, he says, Umizen nimshach, from this, that he's totally revealed in this level of malchus, of kingdomship. It's nimshach gam lamanta. It comes down below, al klaus neshamas Yisrael, the general Jewish people. Lekabil il malchus shemayim. To accept upon themselves the yoke of heaven. Kabbalah soil. What's Kabbalah soil mean? I do what I need to do. I figure out in other words, not that the Yiddishkeit, Judaism, should be something where I do and not understand, but there has to be a level where I get something done, which is what's needed. That power you get during Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur. I have fear. I don't want to, like we say, don't want to mess around. I want to do what's needed to be done because I have a king and I have reverence. Malchus, right? Shemayim alayim, b'tirasei apneim, and it should be the fear of him on their faces. Kol Hashanah, like I told you before, the whole entire year. So the power to be Yiras Shamayim. And when we say Yiras Shamayim, by the way, fear of heaven, what do we mean? When we say we want to have the fear of heaven, of Hashem, the whole entire year, what does it mean to fear God? Are we talking about fearing of a punishment? Like, if I don't do something, I'm really scared because I'm going to lose something in my life. I'm going to have something. What does Yiras Shamayim mean? What is you guys can answer, don't be shy. Yeah.
We're afraid to upset Tati.
But what does it mean?
We're afraid to separate from our Father in heaven.
Very good. I would say, I would add that, but you have 90% what I want to say. The fear we're talking about, when we talk about Yiras Hashem, fearing God, is not the fear of the punishment. We don't want to upset. It's the fear of disconnecting from the relationship. When you have a relationship, you have a friend, somebody who you're so close with, you don't want to do something which is going to distance that relationship. So what strengthens the relationship? When you do things which the person loves, right? You have a person in your family, right? a friend, and the person has things which are dear to him, says, please, a good, you have an in-tune husband, an in-tune father, so he knows what his children likes. Everyone on different levels, but one person could be their favorite foods, one person do the laundry, shop, get things done. When there are things which other people like and appreciate, and you do them, it makes the other person feel great. It makes them feel understood, appreciated. So too Hashem has things which He loves, and we call them mitzvahs, the 248 positive mitzvahs. They're connections. They're things which Hashem does. Negative prohibitions are things which Hashem hates. He doesn't want us to eat things which are not kosher or desecrate the Shabbos. Imagine a person has a home, and a person wants to, surprise his parents. The parents own a home, and he wants to do things only the way he wants to. His mother spent $500 hiring a gardener, and she makes these big tulips all over on a walkway in her home. She's giving a mushal. And the person says, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to pick them all up and give my mother a bouquet of tulips and everything for, so what's so fun? So the person does it. The person does it. And then she gets him and she's like, you just ruined my garden. I love you. It's for you. He's saying, don't desecrate my garden. And what happens? A week later, he repairs the whole thing and plants it. And then a few months later it grows and he does the same thing. A relationship is not about what I want to do to please. It's about what the other person wants. That's what religion is. That's what Yiddishkeit particularly emphasizes, the giving of the Torah. Hashem is telling us how you can connect to me. And that we call 248 positive mitzvahs. When we say Yiras Hashem, we're saying our relationship is so dear and close that we don't want to break the tulips. We don't want to break anything. What does it mean, breaking the tulips in the nimshal, in the analog? It means treading on waters which could touch the 365 negative prohibitions. That we don't want to do. So the power to be careful about halacha and do things which are pleasing and avoid things which He doesn't want comes from Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. And it should be Kol Hashanah the whole entire year. Because very interesting here, I'm going to read these lines, get to the parentheses, and then explain what it means. Very interesting. I'm going to take a break for davening. Look, very, very important lines. I want you to get this from the word ki. Ki yiras Hashem, the fear of Hashem, the avasai, and the love of Him, which the love is the second part of the pasuk, when it says Yemin Techav Kedni, which goes from when? Sukkos to Simchas Torah. That's when Hashem's chesed and love we get to connect Him. Look at these very important lines. Yiras Hashem and Avas Hashem, Eina Asuya. It's not made in a tua and not planted beleva atam in the heart of the person. Mikoich atzmai. From the power of yourself. You cannot imagine, you can't invent, how can I love Hashem, how can I fear Hashem? And just invent it and make it up with it and do it myself. I know it sounds a little shocking. Ki'im, rather, start to have his words, I'll explain. Mikoicha arav nimshach. You get it from a power of a ray which comes down upon him. Milamayla, from above. Be'esuzman his galusa. The time it's revealed, the Hainu, this is the Rosh Hashanah Bechinas Yira, the level of Rosh Hashanah, which is the level of Yira. In other words, let me explain what this means. Hashem gives an extra revelation during Rosh Hashanah, and we can develop that, and we can use it out for the next 12 months. If we try to do it ourselves without what's given to us, it's not going to work. It's not going to work in the same authentic, true way. To give an example on this, if you want to really love something or really want to fear something, you have to see it. It has to be real. What's more scary? Somebody, God forbid, they have an encounter with a robber, a scary person, a dangerous person. They actually it happened, or they just imagine what it might be like in it. The person imagines is, I'm not saying it's not anxiety, but you can't compare your own imagination, which you call in Hebrew dimyonis. You can't compare that to the actual real thing. And so too with love. You love something. Oh, I imagine, wow, going on a new trip, I have a new food. Everyone has their own love, things they love, a new sport. I imagine I'm going to be, I'm driving a new car. I'm everybody on their own level. A boat, a bike, an exciting thing. I'm imagining. Good. You can imagine all you want. But then you have the real thing. then you're actually doing it. When you're actually doing it, it's in front of you. That's what's gonna, evoke the true love. The imagination doesn't come close to the real thing. And the Alter Rebbe is telling us that the real thing comes down from Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur. And that gives us the power to internalize it and make it go the next 12 or 13 months. So it comes out, I'm going to tell you a little bit of Chiddush over here, and the Maimon doesn't say it here. It comes out, and we'll continue with this maybe next time, that what we're doing in Chodesh Elul, right, in a sense, is not the real thing. We're just saying now that when does the real thing come down? His left hand is under my head. His right hand braces. The real hamshacha, the real coming down of Hashem's Ohr comes down when? Tishrei. So it comes out on Elul. We don't have the real thing. We don't have the true love. We don't have the true fear. So the question is, what are we doing in Elul? What is the purpose of our service of Elul? Why should we take advantage of Melech Basada to be continued?
I'll say how.
Huh?
I would say further, not what are we doing, how.
How do we do it? Very good question.
If you can't do it on yourself,
correct.
Yeah, you don't have Kohen Hatzmai, then how are you calling Hashem as king?
Very good. No, very, very good. So when it comes in Tishrei, we have the real thing.
Who's first? Is it Hashem shows and then we crown him?
So that's what this mimer is going to discuss. It's going to discuss this, but I want to get you guys thinking. The real thing is in Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur. So I left you off with the question, what are we doing in Elul? And what's the purpose of what we're doing in Elul if we don't have the real thing? That we will answer in the coming shiur.
Yeshiva Torah Ohr of North Miami Beach.